What's up everyone, Michael aka Spirit Shard here with an early impressions for Nosgoth, a free-to-play asymmetrical arena game. I would call it a third-person shooter, but not everyone has guns, so I didn't really feel it appropriate. But basically it's an arena game to where it's humans versus vampires, and it's actually really cool. I've enjoyed it so far. I'm surprised I didn't actually hear about it before not too long ago. I heard about it in closed beta when I entered closed beta, but then it just kind of went under the radar, and now it's in open beta, and yeah, it's pretty freaking awesome. So do keep in mind this is open beta as well, and they are actually releasing new classes and stuff like that. So there's new maps and new classes coming. So this is not everything that this game has to offer. There's also more game types coming. So yeah, it's not complete yet. So it is open beta. But anyways, I mentioned that it was humans versus vampires. So let's go ahead and look at those real quick, because this is one of the big aspects of this game. So currently there are 4 classes for each side. I believe there's going to be 4 versus 5 soon with the summoner release. But basically, so you got your humans, so you got your hunter, which uses a crossbow, you got your alchemist, which uses a hand cannon, which shoots little orbs that explode, logistics aside. And then you got a scout, which has a longbow, and then you have prophet, who makes magic shoot out of their pistols. I haven't actually played this character, so I don't really know how they work, and I haven't really seen them that much, but they do have twin pistols and they use magic, like kind of necromancy. Now for your vampires, you got a nice little dancer man, aka the Reaver, which is basically an assassin. You got your Tyrant, who is a giant-ass tank. And then you got your Sentinel, who can fly and pick people up, which is pretty cool, actually. And then you got your Deceiver, who deceives. He uses a bunch of visual tricks and stuff like that, which is actually pretty cool. And all these classes are actually really cool, and they're pretty fun to play. First thing you might notice is that the characters actually have a lot of detail on them. That goes into a lot of the aesthetic, which I'll talk about once we get into a game, because the aesthetic of this game is freaking awesome. It's like steampunk medieval sort of thing going on. It's really cool. Anyways, so yeah, so here's all the classes. The hunter is kind of like your kill all. Your alchemist I can talk about because I've played these ones. Has like vials that they throw around that is actually really cool. You know, alchemist. Scout has a lot of long range stuff. The prophet uses magic, as I said. I haven't personally played them. Reaver has a bunch of like assassin like skills, so they have stuff that, you know, makes it so they can't see or continually hurts them and tries to move them out, and then he kind of targets, you know, characters that are out of the thick. And then you got your Tyrant, who's a tank who just wants to run in and slam the ground with his ground slam. You also have different abilities as well, so he has different types of abilities. He has one where you can grab people and throw them and stuff like that. And then you have the Sentinel, who flies and has a bunch of slash abilities. I don't have them unlocked, actually. I don't think I want to unlock him. But he does have a bunch of slash abilities. And then you have the Deceiver, who uses clones, and he can go invisible and pretty much just tries to trick the enemy. He can actually fake as being one of your allies, which is really weird because it's a 4v4 game, and then you're sitting around, you look at your team, and there's 5 of you, and you're like, and then he ends up coming out of nowhere and killing you. So yeah, I'm actually going to unlock him to make it even. So there we go. So originally, yeah, I just unlocked him. Anyways, originally when you start out, you only have 2 classes. So you have the Hunter and Alchemist for the human side, or excuse me, 2 classes for each side. Now the Vampire, you have Reaver and Tyrant, which is actually pretty fun. I actually like the Alchemist the most out of the human classes that I played, and I like the Reaver the most as well. And now I just unlocked the Deceiver. Now how do you unlock classes? There are 2 ways. You can either buy them with the real money currency, which is runes, I believe, or rune stones. And I believe it's about $15 to unlock a class. And then you can also level up every 5 levels and you'll get a class unlock. And you can use that class unlock to unlock any of the classes you want. And I just chose to do the Deceiver because I had it over and I'm like, I might want to show him during the game because he's more interesting. And I haven't seen him in any other videos. I actually didn't even know he existed when I checked out this game. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the business model, because the business model is what really breaks a lot of free-to-play games, which is very unfortunate. Because there's a lot of games I played, they're like, oh yeah, this is freaking awesome, but then the payment model, or whatever you want to call it, the business model, ends up kind of breaking a lot of the balance and stuff like that. Luckily, this game doesn't do that, like too hard at least. There are some things that might be questionable for some people, as in the cost for the real money. Anyway, so first off, they have these skins. This is kind of standard, and I actually like that they use these. And so if we click on one, it brings us into the store. So it's got a bunch of skins for different characters. Some of the skins are not to my liking, and I feel that they should adjust the prices according to them. Like, a lot of the Reaver skins feel like they're kind of just different color sets, but once again, I'm not a person who really frets too much on skins. But yeah, they're about $6 to $8 to buy a skin, not too expensive. And now as you see over on the left, it also has all the different categories. So it does have your average boosters that you would expect in here because you do gain experience and in-game coin. I don't know why you'd buy the gold booster unless, you really thought you were going to play a lot that day. Then I guess it would be worth it, but I would rather just buy everything with the money you're going to spend on the gold booster. But anyways, moving on. Then you have your classes, so you can unlock the classes with the money, as I said, and the class booster thing, which has this little box icon. And so I have the Scout and the Deceiver class. It shows down here in the bottom right that, warning, you've already unlocked this item, so be careful not to buy the same item twice. I don't know if you actually can, but do be careful of that. And it also has bundles if you want to buy big bundles and stuff like that. Another aesthetic thing, along with the skins, because I don't want to talk about the balance yet, is the executions. So vampires have an execution that I'll talk about more in game as I'm showing it, but basically this just changes the look of them. It doesn't change the animation frames, like the amount of frames that there are of animation, or how long it takes, or whatever you want to call that. So it's actually not a balance issue at all, so that's pretty nice. So yeah, and I haven't actually seen anybody using these though, which is kind of unfortunate because some of them look like they'd be really cool, like Wing's Death. I don't know, that seems kind of weird. Looks like they would use wings to kill them or something. Anyways, let's go into equipment. Actually no, let's go back to armory and then look at equipment. So here I am on my alchemist, and you'll notice you have 4 slots here. Now you have your weapon, which you can unlock different weapons. Now each of these weapons have different stats to them. So like, I say different stats and not better or worse because different ones will have different sort of advantages. So from this one to this one has a higher damage, but it's also going to have something lower. So this one has a clip of 6, and this one has a clip of 5 and 30 ammo instead of 36. Its reload time's higher. Its radius is the same, which is kind of nice, but its fire rate is lower. So, there's different types of trade-offs that you can have for the weapons. And the abilities are kind of the same way. So you can use a different ability, but then again, it's going to be a different ability. So it's going to have a completely different effect on your combat. Now there's also perks, which are just straight up, this gives you a bonus. So you get this bonus, and that's what it is. There are no trade-offs to using perks, but there are quite a few of them. So, you can get different ones. I'm sure they'll probably expand these as well, like the abilities, secondary abilities and perks. So this isn't all that you're ever going to see in this game, I'm sure. But yeah, there's going to be more, I'm sure. Anyway, so you can swap these off. They also have this thing for the perks, so that nobody ever goes out without a perk. They have a daily perk, which is actually a really cool way to use the daily system. So right now the daily is reduces weapon coil by 20%. Now, of course, if you don't want to use that, you can get a different perk. And so how do you do that? Well, I got this one, which is fleet-footed. I don't remember how I got it. I don't remember buying it. So there was some other way that I couldn't figure out that I actually unlocked it. But basically you can rent these. So you'll notice the cost is pretty cheap up here when you're looking at them. But that's because that is a 7-day rental. Now normally I would scream at a game for doing this. However, they did it the right way. They allow you to buy it permanently as well. So that is just a huge plus in my opinion. So if you want to wait to actually unlock something, you can. And the perks, to unlock the perks, is really cheap for the rental cost. The permanent is a little bit more expensive, but I think the perks are pretty much, oh, I'm going to need this, today, or this game or something like that, or hey, I'm going to try out this class and I need this bonus on it. Then you just rent it out. And it's not too much. This is like a game and a half, maybe not even that, to unlock one of these perks for 7 days. Now equipment's a little bit different of a story if we switch over to equipment here. Now equipment has different abilities and different guns. Now I would suggest highly that you wait to unlock the permanent versions for these because the rental is significantly higher and the permanent is significantly lower. So unlocking these permanently is probably the better option unless you really want to try out an ability but don't know if you'll like it. Then I guess you could rent it and then buy it if you liked it. But yeah, they are, too much. And in my opinion, the perks, to unlock the perks with real money, I feel like it's a little expensive. It's the same price as the skin, so I hope they lower that, or maybe it gets refined. But then again, that's also a good thing, because in the lower levels, this would be kind of a balance issue, because people who spend money would have these perks, while people with no money wouldn't have the perks that they would necessarily want or need. But at higher levels and more competitive play, I don't think that matters, and this is a competitive game. I want to kind of stress that a little bit, and I accidentally clicked on my inventory because it said I need stuff. Oh, I got a bunch of stuff for unlocking him. I basically got all of his stuff. So when you unlock a character, it actually gives you all the items in your inventory, so keep that in mind, I guess. So yeah, and then you have an access key, which actually gives you access to the character. That's how they do their system. And there you can see my scout one. Anyways, let's go ahead and click on play. Okay, so here we are at the game selection. You see that there are tutorials, which there are tutorials for each class, and I hope they do this for the next classes. I'm sure they will. And basically, these just kind of cover the basics. The Alchemist one, I haven't tried any of the other ones besides the two that they force you to do, which is a Hunter and Reaver. Actually, you can skip them, but it starts you off playing those two, which is a good thing. But the Alchemist one is bugged. I hope they fix that. But basically, all it does is it goes through all the characters' abilities and shows you how to use them and stuff like that. It's actually really well done. I like the way that it's done. You can learn a class, and it also gives you a temporary reward, a 7-day item that you can use on that class if you like that class. It's pretty nice. Then you got your online matches, which is Deathmatch and Flashpoint. There is also this new recruit thing. This is basically Deathmatch, but with level 10 under. So under level 10 is only in this searching thing. You can search for a normal team deathmatch if you are under level 10, so don't think that they're locking you out of the main content. But yeah, if you're a lower rank, you can actually go in here. I just got to rank 10, which is why I just got to unlock the Deceiver, so I can no longer use this search. Maybe I can, maybe it's 10 and under, but yeah. So I'm not going to do that anyways, because that's all low levels. Meh. Anyways, so there are two game modes. There's Flashpoint, which is basically an objective to where the humans are kind of trying to capture a point, and then all the vampires are trying to stop them. I personally don't like this game mode as much right now, just because it's a little it's in beta as it says right there, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel as satisfying as the team deathmatch to play as either the humans or the vampires, and it ends up in a lot of landslide situations because nobody's going for the objective sort of thing. And then there's the team deathmatch, which I would pretty much call the game right now. This is pretty much the main mode that's kind of going on right now. And basically, it's trying to get to 30 kills on each side, and it swaps sides. And so you're not only playing one side, and this is true with Flashpoint too. So you play as the humans, and then you play as the vampires, or vice versa, depending on whichever side you start on. And then whoever has the most kills in the end as a total will end up winning the match, which is pretty cool. So we are also going to look at private matches real quick. So in the private match, you can actually create a private match, so you can start private server, and you can actually do all this and stuff. So you can select all your maps. Here's all the maps, if you were wondering how many maps there were. And then you can also set your round time and your kill limit, which is actually a type-in. So, it only goes up to 255. I was going to see if I can go to 5 million. So yeah, it goes up to 255. But yeah, you can actually do this and go with your friends. You don't gain experience when you do it this way, but this is actually really cool if you have a group of friends that just want to play Nosgoth. So that is pretty awesome. You can also join servers. I've never joined a server, so yeah. And then you have Noscam, I believe that's how you say it. And this is basically game replays, which is actually really cool. Now, I am going to find a team deathmatch, but before I go in there, I want to show the settings real quick, because this is semi-important. If you want to skip this, go ahead. So basically, there's invert look, which a lot of people like. This is just on and off. I would have liked to see vertical and horizontal, but invert is good for people who want it anyway, so do keep that in mind. And show hit damage is basically the crosshair, and then the look sensitivity. I have a custom mouse that I can set my own sensitivity to. And if you do have one of those, don't worry, this game doesn't have mouse acceleration. It doesn't feel like anyways. And so basically those mice will be perfectly fine. You won't have any issues with looking around and stuff like that. This game actually controls really nicely. And then the look sensitivity, I did switch over to my default kind of standard Microsoft mouse, which I believe is, I can't even remember what DPI it is. Anyways, it's really low, but this slider actually goes up pretty high. And for anybody who would want it higher, would actually probably have a mouse anyways that would go higher. So yeah, but it does respect your mouse settings and all that, and yeah, it's pretty nice. And then here's your audio, so you have subtitles output, so stereo and headphones. The headphone setting is always nice. And then dynamic range is really cool. So not very many games have this. In fact, I think this is the only game I've seen that's released in the last few years that has this, strangely enough. And so basically it has high, which is basically going to have a high dynamic range, and then low, which has low, which is really nice for people who play on lower volumes, especially in crowded days or something like that. It's really nice. And then background audio is if game's in the background. Now you'll notice in the sliders there is also voice. Voice is in this game, so it does have voice chat. However, it feels very early for the voice chat in its implementation. I do hope they add in more options, but basically all you get is a slider and a bound key for push to talk, and in-game it's a very quiet, and I haven't found a way to actually turn it off yet, so I didn't see an option for that, and I would like to turn it off or maybe increase the volume more than the slider. I did slide it up all the way, and it really doesn't matter. They're hard to hear regardless. So hopefully they end up fixing that, and it doesn't even actually find my microphone. So I don't have pretty much a stock headset or anything like that. I'm actually using a, recording recording mic, and I use that for all my chat stuff, and it won't detect it. So hopefully they do fix that in the future. I'm pretty sure that's just compatibility stuff that'll get ironed out as time goes on. Now let's go ahead and look at video. So video is pretty much the important part, obviously, of this. So you got all your resolutions that go up to your max resolution. I'm only running 1920 by 1080, so I don't know if it goes higher, but I'm sure it does. And you can also super sample if you want to try that out. And then it's got your window mode. It's got the three, pretty much what are standard nowadays. So I haven't seen any games releasing without it, except for one game I'm not going to mention. And then there's gamma control, and then vertical sync, which I have on for just to cap the frame rate, even though there is a max FPS here. I didn't really have trouble with it running at 60 FPS when I had it max, but I did get some tearing, so I just turned it on because I'm recording. I don't want tearing in my recording. And then I got anti-aliasing, which it doesn't say the amount of passes, but it does show, what type it is at least, which is pretty nice. I have it off because I don't normally run with anti-aliasing on, and it's a big performance hog if you have this on MLAA or FXAA high, believe it or not. And then you have your field of view. This goes all the way up to 110, which is pretty nice. And it goes all the way down to 70. If you need it lower than that, I don't know what kind of monitor you are running on or what type of situation you're in. And 110 is okay. It defaults to 90, which seems pretty good for me for my monitor and how close I sit to it. I do sit semi far away, so that might be various depending on who you are. And then you got your detail options down here along with the max FPS. This is supposed to cap your frame rate. It doesn't do it very well, I should mention. It does end up jumping around. I did get tearing when I had it just on with VSync off. So maybe they'll adjust that, maybe they won't. That's kind of a weird setting because not many games do a max FPS. They just kind of tie it to vertical sync, which I kind of prefer it that way because it's to prevent tearing. But if you are somebody who runs without vertical sync and you don't want it just burning up your GPU, I guess this is a good setting to kind of keep it in that range. So if you run on, a super powered thing, but your monitor only runs at 60 hertz, you're not going to be running at 200 FPS on something that you only need 60 hertz for, which is nice, I guess. But yeah, I have it at 60 because I only run at 60. Now you have your default settings for details. You have low, medium, high, and higher. I currently have custom. Okay, that was a bug. So it didn't actually show it until I hit advanced. Okay, anyways, so yeah, you click on advanced and it shows all your details. You can go ahead and look through all these. I currently have motion blur and depth of field off. This game actually doesn't do too intensive a job on the depth of field and motion blur, which is actually nice, so you can play with it on. But I do have it turned off for performance reasons and the fact that I just don't like it at all. So motion blur kind of makes me a little bit sick and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't use it. And then ambient occlusion, if you are having performance issues, ambient occlusion has a decent impact on performance as well as quite a few of these other ones like dynamic shadows and stuff like that. All these seem to affect the frame rate pretty well, but besides two maps, I've actually been able to stabilize myself at 60 FPS running on a GTX 660 and 5200 FX CPU. So, I'm not on the most up-to-date system and it actually runs pretty well. So it is a good optimized game. Now here are your bindings. You can't double bind, but you can single bind. And you have different bindings for each race as well. So here's push to talk in just the lobby. And then you have your Noscam stuff, which is the what would you call it? Replay mode, I guess. And you can also bind the gamepad, which is pretty nice. I don't believe push to talk is defaulted on the gamepad, so you'll have to set that and all the team chat stuff if you wanted to use that. And I believe you can use them both interchangeably. And what's really cool is in the game, when you actually use the gamepad, it'll just instantly switch all the key prompts to the gamepad button, which is really cool. It doesn't have textures for it, but it does say the button. So if I was using like a 360 pad, it would say Y. I don't know if these would change depending on the pad you're using, but this does say R1, which would technically be, PlayStation pad, and I don't have that type of thing. But yeah, it would change the key thing. And let me check if it's actually... Here, I'm going to check real quick if it actually is menu. So no, you can't use the controller in the menus, so you'll have to use the mouse for the menus. But in-game... I have a bunch of cords everywhere because I picked that up. Anyways, in-game it does change all the stuff and it works pretty well. I was playing a little bit with it, and yeah, you can do everything just as well as with it. Well, maybe not just as well. Aiming with the mouse is generally easier, but yeah, you can actually play the game perfectly fine. It also has in-game Twitch streaming, I guess you would call it. So basically you can stream the game onto Twitch and it's got all your settings and actually has webcam and microphone volume. I don't know if it would detect my microphone if I was trying to stream from it. I haven't personally tried it because I already have my setup for Twitch for whenever I stream to Twitch. And so basically I haven't tried this feature out. But yeah, I'm not sure if it'll detect all mics. It might be the same issue as the voice chat. So hopefully that gets fixed. I don't know if that's actually an issue with the streaming. And if it's not, I'm going to be like, why doesn't it detect it for chat? But either way, yeah. And it's got your nice little slide-in credits, which is actually really cool. Not very many games do this anymore. Like, they normally just have a slate and here's the credits. So yeah, this is actually really cool. Cool, you guys, you did a good job with this game, by the way. Alright, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and save that. I didn't change anything, but save anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and try to find a deathmatch game. The game does allow you to join games in progress, and it does quite often, because this game doesn't have a penalty for when people leave games. There's a lot of people just jumping into games and leaving games, which is really unfortunate, but that seems to be a problem with all early access games I play. Or not necessarily early access, but, you know, open beta games that I play that are in a competitive nature. A lot of people are just trying it out right now, and yeah, so there's a lot of that issues going on. But I'm going to try to find a good game, and I will see you there. Alright, so we are back. We just went from the loading screen and black screen. It syncs all your stuff so that it knows what to put in your game, which is pretty nice. Anyway, so I'm going to, I think I'm going to play as the Alchemist. The Alchemist is easily my favorite right now. And you'll see a little bit of texture pop in as we start up the game. The game looks gorgeous, like if you just look at it. Some of the textures could use a little bit work, but honestly, this isn't a game where you're going to be inspecting flowers all too much. So the flower and foliage could use a little bit of work, but yeah, otherwise it actually looks pretty great. So we actually got into a game, and I actually found a new game, which is pretty nice. It doesn't always happen, but yeah, it is nice when it does. And we are playing the humans, obviously, because I am a human here. And we are fighting against the vampires. The objective is to get 30 kills, and then it will switch sides, or when the timer runs out, it will switch sides as well. And whenever that happens, then you play as the other side. So we'll actually get to play vampires as well in this game, which is actually really nice, and it's a good way to keep score, because you can actually be playing and then be really good at one term or one side, and then be really bad at the other, and it'll hurt your team just as much. So this is a game where you want to try and get your best at both sides. Now this game is very team-oriented, and these guys are just running around doing nothing that is important. And there's a cloud there, which means there's a guy here somewhere. Now as you see the bombs, I wanted to play the Alchemist mainly just because of how these bombs kind of work, and this guy just ran in here and thought he was going to mess stuff up, and he exploded. So this game, as I was saying, is a very team focused, so if you run in solo, you're probably going to die unless the other team is really terrible. And these guys just got dominated, and now I'm scared. This game is pretty tense as well, like when you're fighting stuff, you know, they could just show up out of nowhere, especially with the Deceiver. Oh, I just got jumped on and killed. So yeah, the Reaver can jump on people. I'll show him when we switch over, and then he's just messing with my body. What a troll. Anyways, yeah, so you can drag around bodies as a vampire. So let's talk about the humans specifically a little bit. So what are the humans? So basically there are 4 human classes that I showed, and they're pretty much the weaker technically. So they don't take as much damage, but they can also kill vampires pretty quick. Like, both sides have equal amount of chance to actually killing people. It's not asymmetrical as in, oh, one side's obviously stronger. It's more of the fact that people are just kind of like equal sides, but they're different. So the way that they kill people is different. And also, as you saw earlier, this guy over here actually jumped on a teammate, and I was able to save my teammate by shooting them with an explosive. So you can't actually interrupt grab moves and stuff like that. So you can technically save teammates, and I just got jumped on again. If you click faster, it gets them off of it. Man. Oh my god, he's gonna get away. So the humans they're pretty squishy, but you're supposed to rely on your teammates a lot more than, let's say, you know, the vampires. The vampires kind of want to run in and kind of scatter you and take you out one by one, while the humans want to kind of stay together and try their best to use tactics to kind of take out the vampires and find a good, stable position. There's a lot of different counterplay options as in positioning as well. So when you're positioning, you can pretty much go inside a building if there's too many sentinels, or kind of section off in an open area if you have a scout and you want to kind of keep them at bay. If there's a lot of reavers, you can actually stay out in the open so they can't target you. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm sitting here refilling. I wish there was an animation, but there are these little shrine things, and they do run out, like that one just ran out. And basically that refills your health and your, whatchamacallit, your ammo. So those are kind of important. And you'll want to run around the map and make sure that you're always near one. That's kind of like the point of, moving around the map. So staying in one spot generally doesn't work out too well. I just blind this guy so he can't even see. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm a little bit focused here, because this game isn't easy to play, really. Whoa, okay, I got saved. You can hurt yourself, by the way. Like, I am hurting myself with my own explosive when I'm going in a close area. Anyways, I'm getting low health, so I should probably try finding another area. We should be moving. No, my main problem with this game is actually the thing I love about it most. It's a team-oriented game, and I died. It's a team-oriented game, and the point of that is like, it's fun to play with teams that actually pay attention. However, when you get teams that don't pay attention, or teams that are just, absolutely terrible, you get into a situation where they're absolutely terrible. And it can ruin a lot of games. I have, just like any other competitive game, I've been in games to where it's just a complete landslide, and, that's never fun. Luckily in this game, there are a lot of play options, especially with the Alchemist, I would say, to where you can outplay the vampires pretty well. Like, I've gotten in situations where I've taken on 4 vampires alone. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just saying, as the Alchemist, you can actually throw down blinding skills and all these explosives, so I was able to actually outplay people. So you can do that on any of the classes, it's not just Alchemist specific, and if you can do that, skill does count for a lot of it, so it is very skill based. And getting in these sections is really hard to do sometimes. And I got owned. And as you saw, they kind of grouped up on me. Having larger numbers is definitely what you want to do, though. The team with the most people tends to pretty much win. It is only 4v4, as if I go onto the scoreboard here. And yeah, it is only 4v4, so there's not too many people. It's not a big crowd game, but it is definitely one that if there are 3 people versus 4, the 3 is going to lose terribly. Now, where did that guy go? He was down there somewhere. Don't know where he's at. So let's talk about my Alchemist abilities, and then I'll switch classes after this one. So basically I have the hand cannon, which shoots explosives, which people never expect. And then you have I personally have a blinding thing. I should say I personally have, just because you can get different abilities, as I showed. So I have a blinding thing on my Q, so where I throw down a vial and it explodes, and it blinds all the enemies, and basically all they see for a few seconds is white, which is pretty ridiculous. I shot him in the air with that. Alright, sweet. I actually have teammates who were saving me. I was playing the game earlier and had people that weren't saving each other. I'm like, oh my god, you can do this. Anyways, and then I have this vial. Oh, I'm probably dead. Nope. I have this vial which creates fire, which I just used there out of paranoia. And now I am low, and there's no health thing here. This is not the best spot to be, just because we don't have a health thing here. So that guy's enraged, so he has a lot of different health. Now, one thing that I do want to note is there are loadouts in this game. You can create as many loadouts as you want, I believe. And the thing is, like, you can actually switch your loadouts, but you cannot create a loadout while you're in a game. And I'm dead. So you want to make sure you have your loadout set up before you actually go in-game, or else you're kind of gonna get messed up. Or might not have the setup you exactly want. It'll probably take some time to unlock some stuff, unless you really abuse the renting system. It's going to take you a while to actually unlock multiple loadouts that you'll want to use. So yeah, and as a human, I should probably mention this because this is a difference between the two classes. You can sprint. So yeah, you can sprint, you can also aim and stuff like that. And all the humans have guns, while the vampires do not have guns. Vampires, instead of sprint, they have climb. So they can climb and jump over stuff. Basically, they parkour. And the system actually works really well. I'll show that more when we switch over to the vampire class. And I believe we're winning right now, actually. Yeah, we are winning right now. Not by much, but we are winning. Oh, geez, this guy showed up out of nowhere. I'm just getting rampaged. I just got cornered. So sometimes the visuals are a little hard to tell what's going out. But I did blind them, which is a little strange. Yeah, I was saying, like, the sides are pretty even when you're playing as well. That's a little off topic. I forgot what I was talking about, honestly. Oh yeah, I was talking about the whole score thing. This game is one of those situations to where you can actually win but then still lose, so you can win a round, and as I said before we went into the match, it's basically it tallies together all the points that you get, all the kills that you get between the matches, and then actually, you know, actually adds them together. I'm saying actually a lot because this is intense. It's a little hard to aim this gun. This game actually has some cool physics to it. It takes a little bit to get used to. That's pretty much all the classes as well. Like the scout has to charge up his bow, the hunter has to aim with massive recoil. And he just used an arrow skill. Oh yeah, I should probably mention this as well. You can't hurt your own teammates, or at least not in this matchmaking mode. So basically, you know, I stood in his arrows and I didn't get hurt. However, you can hurt yourself, so if I just shoot this floor and boom, I just hurt myself, but not too much. I only took 10 damage, so you don't take too much damage from yourself, but you do hurt yourself a little bit. I have committed suicide quite a few times in this game, and that guy is down, so we should probably go help him. Where are they, dude? Oh, jeez. You're getting assaulted. Boom. Blind, and then I'm going to throw down this so that they don't want to follow me too much. Now the fire and stuff like fire, like poison or anything that has those big long-lasting effects will actually have damage over time, and I just got jumped on from out of nowhere. You actually take damage over time, so if there's fire or something like that, that'll actually hurt them while they're on fire, which is pretty nice. You can also stop people from jumping, as you saw just before I died. That guy was jumping at me and I hit him in the face with a bomb. It actually stopped him. Oh yeah, and there is a melee attack. I should probably mention that as well. Nobody uses it, but there's a melee attack. And now we got a round victory. We got 28 and they got 22. And so it shows the scoreboard. I actually didn't do too well. I got 1 kill, but I got 15 assists. That's pretty much what I aim to do. I aim to assist as many people as I can. The way experience works in this game is you actually get experience for winning, you get experience for kills, but you also get experience for the amount of damage you do. So as long as you're doing damage, you're actually going to get a lot of points. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the Reaver. This is my favorite one of here. And then I'm going to jump on the Deceiver because I've never played him before. Basically, the Reaver is the assassin, and now we're playing vampires. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on that building whenever it waits for players. 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. So while we're going about vampires, I talked a little bit about the gameplay. So yeah, you can move around, and you're pretty much free roaming, and every vampire is melee based. They're not, you know, focused on weapons, but rather just mauling them. Now we need to find out where they're at, and they're over here. So we all want to go over in this direction. Now that I talked about gameplay a lot, I should probably talk about a little bit about the performance and just the way the game feels. Now this is a pretty much AAA free-to-play game, which, you know, means it controls really, really well. It feels like a good game, so, you know, everything is responsive, moving around is fluid. The climbing, although it is snappy, like it snaps to certain parts of the buildings and stuff like that, it is very responsive and it works, and I just got shot down. As you just saw, basically, vampires die pretty quick as well. So, the other side is overpowered, it's always just kind of whatever. Although it is easier to technically get kills as the vampire just because you can't do so much about a vampire on your face as much as you can do about a human on your face. Anyways, back to performance. The game looks pretty good. There are a few textures that could use work, but it looks good. Like, I have very little to complain about on the graphical side standpoint. The you know, using things is pretty fluid. Once you get used to all the effects are actually quite, you know, interesting and stuff like that. And so here's a mechanic of the vampires that I talked about. You can drag people around and then you can execute them. When you execute them, you get health back. So basically you just have your own mobile shrine that goes around. I forgot what they call those. Probably should have looked that up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. On the technical side, I think the only thing I have to complain about the technical side is, for one, personal preference. I have the whole sound effects are a little bit overdone, but, you know, that's not really a complaint. That's just personal preference. But the other side is the, you know, kind of networking. I have had some network issues, like games will load up, but then they won't start, and then we'll go back into intermission, or people will just randomly disconnect, which adds to that problem of people leaving and stuff like that. Luckily in this game, nobody has. I mean, it's been getting better this week. Like, this is the first open beta week, and over the last few days, it seems to have been getting a lot better. So that aspect has pretty much been taken away. I still get in some situations though where somebody is super laggy, and I don't know if that's the game's fault necessarily, Like, if you think about it, you know, people are just going to have bad connections. That's just kind of the way that the internet is. So, yeah. But the good thing about that is that besides characters just kind of jumping all over the place, they don't necessarily affect the game all too much. As in, like, when somebody's jumping around, you can still kill them just as effectively. Like, the character skipping, instead of them, like, moving ahead automatically, but then they keep going, instead it's kind of like they just stop. And so when they stop, you can actually aim at them easier or melee at them easier. So it's actually a bad thing to be lagging yourself rather than a good thing to be lagging yourself. So yeah, that is hopefully something that they can fix on their end, just to make sure it never happens again. Like, going into a lobby and the game just not working is definitely a big thing that they don't want happening. And it has happened several times so far. Oh god, I'm gonna die, aren't I? Boom, okay, he's out, and then I'm gonna feast on him. Boom, oh, never mind, I'm dead. That is quite satisfying too, because when the spectator cam's on, you can see your killer in the background and you just grab their body and feast on them. It's actually quite satisfying and quite degrading when you're playing on the other team, because then you're like, oh man, that guy just slit my throat. So up at the top, I didn't mention what color the scores were. So blue is vampires and orange is the humans. And so there isn't team colors necessarily, there's just side colors. Whatever, I'm gonna drag this guy for no particular reason, just because it's fun. The physics are a little bit finicky as well. Like, some of the times in the physics it just not worked. Sometimes bodies will be floating instead of actually landing on the ground solid, or, you know, various other things. Just kind of stuff we've gotten used to in games. Like, games are not perfect when it comes to physics. And I'm dead again. These guys are actually on point, killing me pretty quick. I'm not doing the best on my team either, but we're all doing pretty well, except for one guy who has 0 kills. I wonder if he joined in late. Alright, so, oops. I was gonna, oh yeah, here's the pause menu. If you wanted to see the pause menu. I was gonna try to switch classes, I keep forgetting about that. I'm like, I'm gonna switch classes, and then I just don't. Games are also pretty quick, as you see, so it's 10 minutes for each round. So it's about 20 minutes per game if you end up running out of time, which is pretty rare. Generally speaking, in pretty high octane games, you end up pretty much running out. So I just threw a bomb, so if he walks into that, he's gonna die. But it seems like he's not. I've actually been throwing down those bombs behind people, and people end up accidentally walking into them. Oh god, that guy's shooting at me. He's not so good at aiming. One of the big aspects about the vampires, though, you want to make sure to remember is that you can pick up people. Because picking up people, like picking up your victim out of battle, is actually really important, so you can drag out bodies and then pretty much hide away while you feast on them to get your health back. The humans actually have an advantage on that front a little bit, because vampires, although they do slowly regenerate health, the health is obviously pretty high, so you have 1,000 health. You'll regenerate about 10 per second, so yeah, and that's after being out of combat for a full minute. So, you know, just regenerating health isn't actually a viable thing. And this was not a good idea. I don't know why I did that. Activate my shadow ability, which allows me to dodge projectiles. Although when you do that, you know, I can attack, and there's still explosives that'll kill me, so I'm gonna jump on that guy and hopefully he doesn't get me first. We're about to run out of time, and I'm not gonna switch classes because I am out of time. Actually, no, let's go. Deceiver! Haha! We'll play him for less than a minute. One thing I don't like is it doesn't show your respawn timer when you hit high or change classes. So now we're playing this guy. Let's see what this does. Ooh, that's camo. Ooh! So yeah, that's what I was talking about. And the game ended, so yeah. Deceiver's pretty cool if you want to try him out. I've seen him a lot in the game. And yeah, so we won. We kind of dominated that second round, didn't we? We got 30 and they got 12. So obviously we had a lot of people that were good with vampires. And then you get experience. And then you can also look at the match summary and stuff like that. But one thing I don't like is that it instantly takes you out of this and then puts you back into the same lobby into intermission. So I can't actually like read all my stats and stuff, which isn't too big of a deal, but I hope they add an external way to look at that stuff. Anyways, yeah, that was Nosgoth. I've run on for quite a decent amount of time. It likes to freeze up when it gets back to the lobby. I believe this is just an open beta issue, but it should be solved. Anyways, so yeah, as you see here, and then you can go to the bottom right and disconnect. The UI is a little bit confusing sometimes, so I hope that they do end up doing that. And there is also parties. I did not mention that there are parties, so you can invite your friends to parties. I don't have any friends that have played this game yet. I don't know why. I tweeted about it and said, hey dude, get on this game, but nobody got on. Anyway, so a few other things to kind of note. I got about 100 gold for that game, just to notice in. You also have a little status indicator here, so you got party indicator and what you're going through. When you're searching for a game, you can also go into your other lobbies and stuff like that, so you can go to your profile, armory, and do all this stuff while searching for a game, which is really nice for the downtimes, because this game currently doesn't have too many players, or at least not too many games. And you can also switch regions too. I don't know if it'll actually change who you're matched up with. I think it will, but so far I've been on US West and I've been perfectly fine. And yeah, I guess that's Nosgoth. Here's friends list thing. I'm gonna have to block that out. I don't know what else to show. That's pretty much it. The game is getting semi-repetitive after playing it for a few hours, and I have a feeling that that's something that's going to be more solved by the competitive points of the game rather than new content, although they are working on new content. As if we go to the home, it'll show the little icon. It does take a little second to load. One thing I do like about this, I do want to mention though, is that they have the patch notes right here, so if you want to go and look at all the patch notes, it's really nice to have it in-game. A lot of games don't have that, and it has to send feedback and stuff like that. And yeah, so they have the new classes and stuff like that. So, you know, would I recommend this game and who is it for? Because that's always an answer I have to, or a question I have to answer. Said that wrong. Basically, this is a game for the people who are looking for an asymmetrical game in general, really, at this point. There's not very many asymmetrical games that come out, and this is definitely a game focused at the competitive side. It's still fun to enjoy casually, but I think the people who will enjoy it the most are people who are looking for good strategies, people who want to build up teams and ultimately want to be competitive. Like, it is definitely a game that has that potential. There are a lot of different types of strategies you can end up trying out, and I'm excited to actually see where this game goes. I hope that it gets a little bit more popular. I don't know how actually popular it is. It's just that I haven't seen anything for this game, and it's actually really great. So, you know, check it out. It's free to play. There's no cost to going into it. And yeah, they're adding new content and stuff, and I'm excited for it. So yeah, this has been Michael, aka Spirit Shard. If you check out this game, make sure to leave a comment and be like, hey, how was this? Or if you got any questions, leave a comment as well. They're also active on Twitter and stuff like that too, so you can probably ask them directly. Anyways, yeah, Michael, aka Spirit Shard, checking out Nosgoth, a free-to-play arena, asymmetrical style. So yeah, thanks for watching.